Hello everyone, welcome back to Chess Comic. I came over an interesting position. White is down by material, but has a good compensation because of his H passer. So let's take a closer look and understand it move by move if White will be able to win or this game ends up in a draw. So now here, White is obliged to play pawn to h7 because Black has a threat of rook g5, rook takes h5, and then bishop f5. So White played pawn to h7. And Black plays rook g5 check, which forces White to take the pawn on d6 because anything aside from taking the pawn on d6 will lead to a loss. Okay? And then rook takes h5, the only way to defend the pawn from promoting. Here, if White takes the bishop, Black will just simply take the pawn on h7, which makes it easier for Black to draw because the rook can just give a repetition of checks wherever the king goes. And if at some point rooks will be traded off, Black can just even let White capture the pawn on b5 as long as he is able to play king b7, and this will end up in a draw through the rule of opposition. Now, let's move back. The correct move for White is not to take the bishop, but instead to play king c7, threatening rook a2 checkmate. And here, Black plays bishop to e6, a logical move. I mean, it's defending a2 checkmate as well as moving the bishop away from getting captured and threatening to capture the h7 pawn with a check. And here, White plays another mating net move, which is king to b8, threatening rook to d6 checkmate. And Black played another great way to defend the mate by playing bishop to d5, obviously blockading the rook from going to d6. And the move for White here is kind of obvious, which is rook takes d5, trying to deflect the rook so the pawn can promote. And actually, aside from threatening to promote, there's another, the checkmate threat on d6 is still there. So Black is logically forced to take the rook. And here goes the deciding position. This is the most crucial part because it will decide if White will be able to win or this will end up in a draw. Now, let's take a look at the promotion. Logically, or normally, you're going to promote to a queen. And if you do, Black has his last resort or resource, which is rook to d8, queen takes, and ends up in a stalemate. So let's take back. Would you imagine, or can you imagine, the correct way is to under promote your pawn to a rook, threatening rook h6 mate, and the only way to defend it is to play rook to d6. And after that, White can play king c7, threatening a checkmate on a8, as well as the rook on d6. And Black loses. Amazing, right? I hope you guys learned from this video. And if you do, or if you did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the good chess vibe. Until next time. Bye bye everyone.